Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're zooming out to generate a comprehensive overview of the timeline behind some seriously mind-bending ancient events. We're going to look at what allegedly happened, when it happened, and how these specific anomalies are completely challenging our conventional understanding of the human past.
So let's dive right into this huge question. What if the ancient past was actually powered by lost technology? Right now, there is this massive tug of war happening between mainstream archaeological consensus and alternative researchers. These alternative theorists are looking at the exact same artifacts, but attempting to rewrite human history, suggesting our ancestors didn't just have simple stone tools, they actually had access to advanced machinery, functional electricity, and even weaponized sound.
To get a clear, objective picture, we'll follow this roadmap. First, we'll map out a timeline of these ancient anomalies. Then, we'll look at prehistoric Pumapunku, 32nd century BC Egyptian engineering, a 1400 BC sonic event, 200 BC electricity and computers, and finally, we'll wrap up by completely reassessing our historical timeline.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, our timeline of ancient anomalies.
Just look at the sheer scope here. We're not talking about one isolated, weird artifact. We are traveling all the way from a prehistoric calendar interpretation in South America that might date back tens of thousands of years, to the 3200 BC megaliths of Egypt, the 1400 BC destruction at Jericho, and right up to a highly complex ancient computer found in Greece from around 200 BC. Moving right into Section 2, the prehistoric events at Pumapunku, high up in the Andes Mountains.
You know, when the Spanish conquerors first showed up in Peru, they naturally pointed to these incredible, sprawling structures and asked the local Inca leaders, who built this? Surprisingly, the locals didn't take credit for the massive interlocking granite blocks at all. They straight up told the Spanish that they were built instantly, in a single night, by divine beings like their creator god Viracocha. They explicitly stated it wasn't the work of their forefathers.
And the crucial point here really is the immense scale of what we're talking about. We're looking at structures like the Gateway of the Sun. It's an intricate arch cut from a single piece of andesite rock, weighing over 10 tons. Just imagine trying to lift and precisely carve a solid rock school bus without any modern hydraulics or cranes. It's totally baffling, and honestly, it sets the perfect stage for some very unconventional theories.
So we've got two radically opposing camps here. On one side, alternative theorists point to local legends of giant stone platforms literally floating through the air to the sound of a trumpet, suggesting extraterrestrials use some kind of acoustic levitation to instantly build a base camp. On the flip side, mainstream archaeology views Pumapunku as an incredibly advanced human-built temple complex that was meticulously constructed over generations for religious rituals. Jumping forward to Section 3, 32nd century BC Egyptian engineering at the Karnak Temple complex. The precision we see in Egypt is just wild. Take the exceptionally tall granite obelisks at Karnak. They feature these tiny, perfectly uniform slots just 0.14 inches wide. Experts looking at the internal tool marks suggest they had to be made by a rotating tool stepping down incrementally. Finding a tolerance of 1,000th of an inch inside solid red granite absolutely shatters our accepted understanding of early human manual capabilities. Which brings us to Christopher Dunn, a machining expert. While he was exploring a site called Abu Rawash, he found deep cuts in granite blocks that puzzled him for days. He ultimately concluded that to create those specific, perfectly geometric cuts, the ancient builders couldn't have just been chipping away with hand tools. He theorized they would have needed massive, modern-style circular saws, potentially up to 35 feet in diameter. And here is the absolute core of the debate for this era. Mainstream historians maintain that these massive 100-ton blocks, which, by the way, is the equivalent of squeezing 100 family cars together, were shaped over time using simple copper chisels, wooden mallets, and abrasive sand. Conversely, alternative researchers look at the perfectly spaced striations found on artifacts like Sir Flinders Petrie's famous granite drill core and argue that these are the undeniable fingerprints of high-speed, advanced machinery.
Let's fast forward again to Section 4, 1400 BC, and the sonic weapons of Jericho.
Okay, if we look at the biblical account of the fall of Jericho as an actual, literal, historical event, the sequence of steps is super specific. The Israelites marched around the city once a day for 6 days. Then on the 7th day, they blew ram's horns, the shofar, while accompanied by the Ark of the Covenant. The result?
Those massive stone walls supposedly collapsed instantly just from the sound and vibration alone. Now, bringing down massive stone walls with nothing but sound sounds crazy, right? But to understand the physics, check out a modern equivalent, the LRAD, or Long Range Acoustic Device. This is a very real 21st century sonic weapon used by the military and private security forces. It was famously used to repel pirate attacks off the coast of Somalia in 2005. It produces a directed, localized beam of sound exceeding 150 decibels, which causes immense physical distress. So what actually happened at Jericho? Most modern scientists and historians chalk the destruction up to a really conveniently timed, localized earthquake. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest something way more mechanical. They propose that the Ark of the Covenant wasn't just a sacred box, but actually acted as a supernatural or extraterrestrial power source. They think it amplified those horns into a devastating, focused sonic beam, effectively acting as an ancient version of an LRAD. All right, on to Section 5, 200 BC, ancient electricity and computers. It's kind of ironic, really, when you track the modern timeline of these discoveries. We've literally had to wait for our own tech to catch up just to understand what we were digging out of the ground. For example, the Antikythera mechanism was found way back in 1900 by sponge divers, but it wasn't until the 1950s that X-ray imaging finally allowed us to see the complex interconnected cogs hiding inside that lump of encrusted coral. When experts finally got a good look inside this 200 BC Greek artifact, their jaws hit the floor. It functioned as a highly sophisticated astronomical computer. The gear trains inside were more complicated than a modern Swiss watch. The shock in the academic community was so profound that researchers literally compared the discovery to finding a jet airplane parked inside the tomb of King Tut. Then you have the Baghdad battery. It's a small clay pot containing a copper lining and an iron rod. If you pour in an acidic liquid like wine or fruit juice, boom, it genuinely generates a measurable electrical charge. Mainstream theory suggests it was just a clever, simple tool used for electroplating jewelry. But alternative theorists say, hold on, this is proof of ancient electrical knowledge. They argue this kind of tech explains anomalies like the entirely soot-free underground crypts at Dendera in Egypt, where the carvings look suspiciously like giant light bulbs. Bringing it all together in our final section, reassessing the historical timeline. When you step back and generate a complete overview of these events chronologically, a really fascinating pattern of historical anomalies emerges. We are seeing a rapid megalithic construction out of perfectly cut 100-ton blocks, anomalous machine marks on solid granite, ancient reports of localized sonic destruction, functional batteries, and advanced mechanical computers. Taken all together, these artifacts pose a massive challenge to the straight-line, linear timeline of human technological development that we are all taught in school. So I'm going to leave you with this one major question to chew on. Based on the timeline of events and the sheer physical artifacts we've just explored, are we really the very first human civilization to harness precision machinery, advanced acoustics, and electricity? Or are we simply rediscovering exactly what the ancients already knew, only for it to be tragically lost to time?